Hello there. I've tried recording talks before. It hasn't really worked out very well because of the acoustics in this place, and the lighting isn't always very good either, so let's have another go at this and see if this works. I had a query recently from someone I'd probably term an agnostic, who said, how do I tell if any of these religions is actually, let's float around the world, any of these religions is actually genuine? And I said, well, there are some quite simple tests you can apply. I'm sure people could devise all manner of them, but there are three simple ones I know of that would actually make the position quite clear. But for those who don't quite know why we have all the religions, I'll go into that in a moment. Three tests though, three quick tests. Look at a religion, does it comply with these three things? How does it answer these three questions? One, it would be promoting what it claims to be the Word of God. One, is that message, is the content, is the tenor of it consistent with the known and unvarying and obvious nature of God? God is love, God never changes, so it's dead easy, so you can't fiddle it or fudge it in any way. It's clear cut, and anyway, if you weren't quite sure about how a universe would be designed and how it would be and how our creator would have devised it, all you got to do is think, well, if I were in that position, how would I do it? So, one, is it consistent with the known nature of God? Is it really his word? Two, is it corroborated? Or is it just one person's agenda dressed up in the form of, to make it look as if it is the Word of God, but actually one person's agenda for whatever purpose that might be? Probably, we might call sponsored by or encouraged by the devil, by the way. So, is it corroborated? If we look at, say, the Holy Bible's Old Testament, particularly good for this, there were dozens and dozens of prophets, most of whom never met any of the others. We didn't have an internet in those days, there was no mass communications around the world. So in the Old Testament there are dozens of prophets. In fact, there's so many of them that in the Bible the books concerning them have to be grouped into the major prophets and the minor prophets. And there were probably lots of others who didn't actually get as far as having their words either committed to writing or included in the Bible, even if they were, for whatever reason. God would have covered this. But he always makes sure that he warned us that others would come in his name, and he was well ahead of the game, prepared the way by making sure that we knew by having a corroborated statement. Lots of independent people all saying essentially the same thing, bits of the puzzle overlapping, duplicating, whatever. You build up this picture of a true religion. So that's two so far. So one, is it true to God's nature? Two, is it corroborated? Third test, what effect did it have, if any, on the person or persons receiving the word? Those acting as the conduit, if you like, of the word to God's people. What effect did it have? Even if there was initial reluctance, what was the ultimate effect? Picking a quick example from the New Testament this time, Matthew the tax collector, of course, was transformed from doing something that perhaps was not everyone's favourite job for someone to have. He was transformed, as were others, loads of them. Paul, of course, was transformed on the road to Damascus, and all sorts. So when they have contact with God and experience, they are transformed in a positive manner, if it's genuine. Otherwise, perhaps, what would happen if, what would one think if someone purporting to have been in touch with God repeatedly, perhaps, carried on killing people? His old job took child bride and all these other things that one might consider to be morally acceptable. So there's an interesting way to look at it. Those three things. Is it true to God's nature? Is it corroborated by others? And what effect did it have on those carrying the message? From God to us. 3 easy tests. There are other clues as well. One very good clue I have found in recent years, and this is a dead giveaway of what's going on and what is true and what isn't, is when you know that the devil, Satan, has been involved in promoting certain things, what are his targets? What is he promoting? What is he trying to have sidelined, even persecuted? And we've seen this around the world, and we've seen it even in our own country. Promoting false ideologies and persecuting the Judeo-Christian religions and their followers. We've seen that, we've seen it in Egypt, we've seen it in this country. BBC is a wonderful arm of this, of course, being part of the, very strongly part of the left, and it is the political left who are, as it happens, and I can cover this on another video, are entirely in the thrall of the devil, all of them. There aren't any exceptions that I'm aware of in the whole world, nor in recent history. They're entirely in the thrall of the devil, and they are promoting these agendas. And we've seen it here, we saw it in the last decade in particular. In fact, the BBC hasn't had a Christian head of religious broadcasting for many years. We've had one after the other of ones from other faiths, let's say. Why? And why is it always anti? They do the nominal stuff, they do things that do a window dress to make it look as if they are still doing what they're supposed to be doing. But the big clue there is that the devil has actually done us a great favour, he's pointed the way through all this morass, even if we hadn't applied those other 3 tests, but I still suggest we do, even if we hadn't done that, shown that the ones he is targeting, his enemy, are the Judeo-Christian faiths, I put them as. So the bottom line of all this is that we now should realise that A, this is a very real war going on, an ideological war between, bluntly, between good and evil. B, the evil side has a huge number of tendrils into our society, and is operating through very high level, very powerful, very influential mediums such as a lot of the governments, a lot of the political parties, particularly all the left parties, and occasionally individuals in other parties and other organisations as well. And C, the devil's given the game away a bit by his specific targeting of his own enemies, which are, say, the Jews, and in particular Christianity, specifically and overridingly. You can feel it, you can sense what he's doing.